Hello, everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. On Monday's edition, we're kicking off the week, and I hope to find you doing well wherever you may be around this world. Determination. We hear that word and we think about the willingness to strive towards something with a fire, with a goal, with a passion. And almost pretty much nothing would make you quit. I'm determined to do it. How does that look when that determination to do something is for the wrong reason? How does that look when it's not for the good of everyone involved? Not for the good of the community or the state or the nation or the family or whatever the case may be. That level of determination can be dangerous. That level of determination can change the course of history. We've seen that happen over the years. The rise of people like a Hitler, the rise of a cultist like a Jim Jones, determined to do something that they felt like needed to be done, regardless of how it would affect anybody else. I want us to think about that today as we're mindful of what are we determined to do and what drives that. We're going to use our scripture today in the last part of chapter 7 of the book of John. As we look at basically one turning on another. In professional wrestling, when two teammates are in a tag team and one turns on the other, they call that turning heel. And what does that mean? Well, it means one has gone rogue, one has gone bad guy, or whatever the case. The Pharisees at this time, the scribes, all the ones in charge, they were determined to get rid of Jesus. We've talked about that. And this was by hook or crook. It did not matter because their mind had been made up. He was in the way. Their mind was made up. He impeded their agenda. He had to go. We still see a lot of that attitude alive today, whether it's pointed toward an individual or not, whether it's pointed toward an agenda or a group of people, doesn't really matter. The determination behind that is one thing, but what fuels that determination is another. Oftentimes in our life, we're determined to accomplish a goal. Maybe it's to lose weight. Maybe it's to get a better job. Maybe it's to be a better person. There's all kinds of things we can be determined to do that are absolutely a good thing. And the determination behind that is fueled by a true desire to improve yourself, to improve your surroundings or your community or whatever. On the flip side of that, when that determination is fueled by selfishness or anything else that has no good agenda or no good intent, it becomes a problem. We see a lot of that too. We absolutely get into the realm of right and wrong, good and evil, dark and black, dark and white, dark and light, whatever the case, all those different scenarios. They've brought Jesus in, or they're wanting to. We talked about the last time we were together on Friday how the guards came back, the officers came back empty-handed. They were angry. The leaders were angry. Why is he not with you? And they said, have you listened to what he says? In essence, saying, he's not wrong. What he's teaching is not blasphemy. What he's teaching is freedom and life. And they said, we don't believe it. And we're the smartest guys we know. So why would anybody listen to it? Because they should listen to us. They don't need to listen to him. They were angry. They didn't like that. We go today and we look at one of their own, Nicodemus. Now we go back to chapter 3. Nicodemus had privately met with Jesus. And we had a long series of lessons in that conversation because of that conversation, because Jesus said unto Nicodemus some of the most famous words out of the entirety of the Bible. John 3:16, for God so loved the world. We all know it. Even if you're not a believer, you've heard that. He spoke unto Nicodemus, he said, if one is to enter into the kingdom of heaven, they must be born again. We talked exclusively for several lessons, maybe 3, 4, 5 lessons on just that word, the word must. He left no gray area there. It had to happen that particular way. So here we see this name come back around, Nicodemus, because as we go back to chapter 3, we'd see he was one of them. Now, he kind of snuck away, or maybe he was even sent to try to find out on the inside what was going on. Because remember, when he approached Jesus, he said, we know, plural, we. They had been talking about him. And they said, we know the things you do, only someone of God could do. So they were well aware. Nicodemus is hearing their words, and even greater, he's seeing their hearts, as they are now determined at all cost, no matter what, they're going to get him. That's what they want. So he challenges them on this. And he said, of this one, it tells us in verse 50, Nicodemus said unto them, in other words, and it says here in parentheses, the one that came to Jesus by night, being one of them. So again, he's not left his position. He's still on the inside. He's still one of them, if you will. And so he asked them this question. Now remember, he's been posed direct questions from Christ himself. You must be born again. And then he asked him, he said, how can you be a teacher of the law if you don't know these things? In other words, you should. If you really knew what the scriptures say, you would understand what I'm saying. And then remember, just in this same verse, this same chapter, he's challenged the whole group. You claim certain things, but you don't even know God. You cannot be purveyors of the word and the lessons that you're claiming, and you don't even know God. So he's called them out. Nicodemus has now said, does our law judge any man before it hears him? Now think about what he's saying. Before you're even listening, before you even know him, and you're already judging him. In other words, how do we find him guilty before knowing the facts? Now, clearly in our justice system, it used to always be innocent until proven guilty. Now, that's not always the case anymore in the court of public opinion. All it takes is a couple of rounds on Twitter or Facebook, a couple of rounds on CNN or Fox or wherever else, and you're already done. Already committed the crime, already been sentenced, and you've never even been to court. That's the world we live in now. Nicodemus is seeing this happen as well 2,000 years ago. And he calls them out. He says, wait just a confounded minute. How on earth are we finding someone guilty and we've not talked to him? How is this possible? It tells us their instant rebuttal to this was, wait a minute. Are you from Galilee? In other words, are you now supporting this one that we're against? What's wrong with you? Are you turning on us? I mean, are you looking? Are you searching? And have you found a prophet in Galilee? They didn't like that. See, they were struggling with holding on to their position. That's where they wanted. They wanted that more than anything. And they weren't willing to give it up, no matter how long they'd been there. In fact, the longer they'd been there, the more desirous that position was. And they weren't going to walk away from it. They weren't going to give it up. And anybody that got in the way of that, including one of their own, they cut their head off. They didn't care, because it was all about them at this point. Their determination was fueled by self-preservation and selfishness. So they got mad. They got angry with Nicodemus. And they asked him, they said, wait a minute, are you Are you pleading on the side of Jesus, the one that we're against? Are you taking up for him? Are you taking his side now? Are you willing to take sides? See, they were divided even amongst themselves because in old law enforcement terminology, there's no honor among thieves. If you're going to cost us the take, if you're going to possibly get us caught, we're not going to stand in your corner. You got to go. There's no honor among this group. If you're not going to totally, fully, 100% back everything that we say and everything that we do, then you're out of the gang. You're out of the club. We don't want you around. We only want you to do what we say. Tell us yes. Tell us we're right. And never, ever, ever question us. You're saying, Pastor Andy, why does this sound so familiar? I mean, I've never even read the book of John, but I've heard this story before with different characters within the last 2 years. History repeats itself, and it's for the same reasons. It's a matter of the heart. What is fueling your determination? We see many today in positions of power that their determination is fueled by the very same things that are going on right here. And so internally, they're bickering and arguing with one another. They're divided over the truth, and they're willing and determined to continue this fight every step of the way to make sure I get my way. That's what it all came down to. That's what it was all about. So we're told here that they got mad. They got upset. And in this final verse, it says, and every man went unto his own house. In other words, I can't get my way. I'm leaving. I'm going to take my ball and I'm going home. I'm going to pout. Just like a petulant child. But I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm going to find a way. I'm determined. This time at home, I'm just going to let me sit and stew a little bit and plan and scheme a little bit on how to pull off. So they didn't give up the plan. Even though they were divided amongst themselves, even though they were determined, they were never going to admit that they were wrong. Even though they knew the truth, go back to chapter 3, we know. They can't get away from that word. They can't get away because it came directly from them. Nicodemus was one of them. And he said, we know. That changes everything when it comes to accountability. It's the same thing today. If we were privy to private meetings, if we were privy to some of the discussions that goes on behind the scenes, there are very many amongst the modern Pharisees and scribes who would utter the same words. We know. We know that this happened or this didn't happen, but that doesn't fit the narrative, and we're not changing. We're determined. We're going to win. We're going to get over. We're going to get our things done no matter what. No matter what it costs, no matter who it hurts. Even if it has to be done in a less than legal way or a less than moral way. That's the least of any concerns. And this was the least of any concerns there. See, friends, when one becomes determined to never give up, no matter what the cost, even if the cost is personal. You see, here, not only was the cost going to be personal and ultimately lose the position that was so desirous and so willing to hold on to at all cost, but even greater, what was on the line was the cost of one's own soul. You hear many people say today that phrase, I don't care what it costs, it don't matter. Even if it costs me my own life, I'm going to do it. What do you gain by that? Being a martyr? You didn't get to enjoy anything. This group was so determined, I'm going to have it my way. I'm going to get rid of this guy no matter what. They were so determined that they were going to do what they wanted to. It didn't matter what it cost. Even if it cost them everything that they wanted to hang on to so bad. in the mindset that they had become determined by, they would still see themselves as winners. It's like the gambler. I once knew someone, it's a true story, that literally within the span of 10 days, spent $20,000 on scratch off lottery tickets. At the end of that $20,000 spending spree, and the end of all the piles and piles of soft aluminum or whatever that is on the scratch off gimmick, they won $300. In their mind, they were a winner. They were determined to spend every nickel of that money, regardless of what would return. They had their mind made up. I'm going to do it or bust. And that's exactly what they did. And they had nothing in return. Nothing. When at one time, 10 days earlier, they had literally, and I saw it. This was right in front of me. And you could not talk them out of it. They were determined no matter what. It's one thing to be stubborn and aggravating and hard-headed. It's another thing when your determination has been fueled by something so much stronger than any of us can imagine of I'm going to get my way no matter what. Most of you know that I worked in law enforcement for many years. There was a case several years ago on a Black Friday in November during the Christmas shopping just madness that takes place. A lady was determined to get a video game system for her grandchild. She got in line. She came fully prepared. I'm going to get that brand of machine no matter what. That was the mindset that she went into this store with. She rushed her way through the crowd when they opened the door at 5:30. This was the days before they actually started on Thanksgiving. This was actually on Friday morning. She burst through the crowd, got to the shelf where this thing was at, reached to get it at the same time that someone else was reaching to get it because it was the last one on the shelf. Most of the things they don't tell you about the Black Fridays, you only have like 3 or 4 or whatever. There's not many on these special hot deals. Normally it's $300. You get today and get it for $50 or whatever the case. She got her hands on it. The other person had their hands on it. As the other person had a little bit stronger hold and began to move that item closer to them, this lady reached into her purse and pulled out a pin or some type of sharp object, I can't remember what it was, and stabbed this other person in the neck and killed them. Really happened. They killed him right there in the store. And she took the video box machine thing from the dying hands of this person and walked to the cash register. She would later be arrested, obviously, for murder. And her statement was, at least I got the machine that I went to get. What is your determination fueled by? We see these ones here that were determined to eliminate Jesus, remove him literally, physically from the earth. They didn't want him to move to the next town over. They didn't want him to move to the next country or the next state. They wanted him gone. And they were determined that no matter what it cost, they were going to do it. That's a dangerous place. I want you to think about today, what fuels your determination? Is it to be a better person? Is it to be a better spouse, better parent, a better employee, a better boss, a better Christian, whatever? Just a better you? What determines that? What is your determination fueled by? The passion to make your life better and your community better, your state, your nation better, the lives of those around you, your family better? Or is it fueled by selfishness that I want what I want and I don't care what it takes to get it? It's two completely different mindsets. There's nothing wrong with having goals. There's nothing wrong with having visions and dreams. I have them every day, and I'm determined to fulfill them. But I am determined And it is fueled by my passion for my belief and my faith in Christ and what he's done for me, because I want to make the world around me a better place. Not just for me and not just for my family, but for those around me that I truly care about, even those that I've never met. Many right here on this platform I've never met and probably never will, to be honest about it. We're connected through this social platform, but I care for each and every single one and what happens in your life. If there's one thing that I can do or say or teach or minister on or give an example of or share a story from that will make somebody else's life better, I'm determined to do it, because that's the passion that God has placed in my heart, is I want to see things better. It grieves me when I see people on the other end of that spectrum with no hope, with no light, with aimless direction. It grieves me deeply because it doesn't have to be that way. The darkness that this life gives us, the darkness that the examples around us give us, whether it's news or this or that, friends, we don't have to listen to that stuff, because God has placed before us a hope, and our hope is found in Christ. Now, whether you're a believer or a non-believer, the fact of the matter is everybody needs a foundation, and a foundation is something you can absolutely depend on. And we need one that will not fall down. We need one that will not crack. We need one that will not crumble. There's only one. And I have searched for over 50 years, and I finally found it. And it is Jesus Christ. My intention, my determination in making it simple, is to break these passages down and use the examples of life and all the tools that God has given me to indeed simplify this to the point that any single person alive, young or old, can understand what we're talking about and see value in themselves, see value in living, see value in making things better. That's my determination, is to help. What fuels that is the love that God has given me for others and the passion that he has shown me because of the love that he has for me. And my determination is to let you know that not only does God love me, he loves you. And he loves you so much that he was willing to give it all. And he did when he shed his own blood on a cross over 2,000 years ago. We see these passages here of those that learned of that mission, those that learned of that truth, and they wanted it stopped because they knew, just as Jesus would say later, and we'll see in this very next chapter that we begin tomorrow in chapter 8, the truth will set you free. And I believe that with all my heart. I hope that you have a good rest of the day. I want you to look inside your heart. What's fueling you? What determination do you have? And what makes you determined to go after it? Make sure it's something that's going to make your life better, but it doesn't stop there. It improves the lives and the conditions of those around you. God bless you. Hope you have an awesome rest of the day. Tomorrow, we're going to kick off chapter 8 with a phenomenal story, the woman caught in adultery. And I'm going to teach you that story like you've never heard it taught before. I guarantee you that. It's going to be a good one. God bless you. I'll talk to you later.